This video is sponsored by Roboblock. More on them later. Today we have a very special guest. We have Jeremy Cohen here. He's an AI and self-driving car engineer. He's also the founder of Think Autonomous and the former head dean of France School of AI. So Jeremy, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sina. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so Jeremy, I learned about you through one of my subscribers. He's also one of my mentees. His name is Mech. He asked me to check out your website. He sent me a couple of your daily emails, and I found the daily emails very interesting. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do, the daily emails?
Well, as you said, I run the daily emails. So with Think Autonomous, what's going on is that I'm sending you an email every day to help you work on cutting edge technologies. And it's really starting with self-driving cars. And the idea is to generally use my background and my experience to help people do something similar as I did, to just join the self-driving car industry or any other advanced industry. And the idea is really to just, like, if you are in a job right now, and you don't necessarily love your job, if you think it's not technical enough, if you think it's not advanced enough, I am here to help you take your skills from, okay, I know a bit of machine learning and I'd love to make it my full-time job, to, okay, I am a self-driving car, computer vision engineer or whatever.
Awesome, that's great. That's what I'm trying to do as well, just helping people to become a robotics engineer. So can I ask, what is your education? Do you have a graduate degree or do you have a bachelor's degree? Do you have a PhD? So can you talk about your education, please?
I don't have a PhD. The idea was, I have a master's degree, and in France it's called engineering school. So I have an engineer diploma. And then I have been on a first job in consulting. I was an AI consultant. And like most French engineers, when they go out of the engineering school, I was a product manager. So that's what many people do, and that's like the default job. And I loved the AI side because I was in AI, but I didn't love it that much. Like, it wasn't technical enough. So this is why I decided to learn on my own about self-driving cars. I've been through the Udacity Nano degree. I've been through a lot of online courses. I learned as much as I could. And then basically led me to a job in self-driving cars.
I see. So your master's degree was basically engineering, not in AI, but you learned AI on your own, and then you took some online programs, online courses, and then eventually tried to become a self-driving car engineer. Is that a detailed description of what you do, or how you became a robotics car engineer?
Yeah, exactly. So that was like, there was two sides of it. The first was to learn skills online. I already knew how to code and all of that from the engineering school. And the second was, we can come back to it, but there was a lot of personal branding that I learned to do, and that I am also teaching in my daily emails every day, because I figured out that most engineers have this problem of having the skills, but not being able to communicate them effectively to companies.
Awesome, perfect. So you touched on your experience after you graduated. Can you maybe expand a little bit, explain a little bit? Like, you were the dean of the School of AI. Can you talk about that? Can you talk about your startup a little bit so people can, maybe my audience can understand more about what you did in the past or what you're doing now?
Sure. I have been in 2 consulting jobs, and before being a self-driving car engineer, and basically I made sure that every one of them led me to becoming a self-driving car engineer. That was like almost a 1.5-year journey. And at first I was just working on an AI chatbot project, and it was great, but as I said, I was a product manager. I couldn't code the neural network layers. I couldn't just do that, and they wouldn't allow me to. And I knew that I was like, I could do that. I learned it online. I learned how to do the neural networks, the recurrent neural networks, the CNNs. I learned all of that, and I just wanted a way to just express myself. So I found it through online courses, through learning self-driving cars, which was a perfect combination of AI and my specialty in engineering school, which was Internet of Things. And then basically I went on another consulting job, but as a computer vision engineer. And that was my first like real shift into coding AI projects. And then what I did for about a year was to build portfolio projects with online courses, with blog posts, with whatever I could find to just have a portfolio of projects. And then I made sure to apply in a couple of companies. So in France, there are like 5 companies in the whole country doing self-driving cars. So I was quite limited. And I know that it can be the situation of many people who are listening from India, for example. I have a lot of subscribers from India telling me there are like 2 companies doing that in the whole country, how to deal with this. And that's actually like, it was quite complicated for me too, but that's definitely possible, that's definitely doable. And worst case scenario, if you learn skills about self-driving cars, it can always be reused for robotics companies or AI or other similar industries. And then I use that portfolio to just transition to become a self-driving car engineer. And then for 2 years, I've been coding computer vision algorithms for an autonomous shuttle.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. So now we can say Jeremy Cohen is expert in self-driving cars. Is that a true statement?
Not really. Like, I'm definitely much better than I was 2 or 3 years ago. I wouldn't say I'm an expert because it takes, like, I don't like that word expert. It's just not the kind of word that I like to refer to, and I don't want people to like see me necessarily as an expert. I do know sometimes more than people from my audience, and this is why I can help them. But there is still a long way to go.
I see. So you just mentioned that you didn't find enough challenge when you were an AI engineer. So my question to you is, why self-driving cars, not other fields in robotics or AI? What was the reason you tried to transition from AI to self-driving cars?
Because it's so cool. Self-driving cars is like, it's so impactful and it's so advanced in terms of when I signed up to be an engineer at first, I didn't sign up to optimize some tests or do some scripts that I wouldn't want to, or to manage projects and not understand this. I signed up to be an engineer because I wanted to be like Tony Stark or build Iron Man armor. That's what I wanted to do. And this is what we love as engineers, to create stuff that are extremely advanced. We want to build flying cars. We want to build autonomous drones, machines that can spot cancers and solve them. This is what we dream to do. And I know that many engineers have that potential also. And when I saw something about self-driving cars, I immediately I loved it. Immediately it was like, it felt natural. I felt like it was exactly designed for me and that I should be in that field.
So my next question is, how far do you think we are from having level 4 autonomous cars on the street? I know some companies like Waymo, Google's Waymo, or Baidu in China, they're testing level 4 autonomy, like level 4 autonomous cars on their street. For example, Waymo is testing their cars in Arizona. Baidu is doing the same thing in China. So, but how far do you think we are from seeing these cars in mass production on the streets, or at least major cities? I don't know, like Paris, London, New York, and other major cities in the world?
We're not that far. What I like to see is that there are 2 ways to reach level 4, level 5 autonomy. The way you're saying it, there are the companies like Waymo and who are basically building level 4 cars, just that it's very difficult to scale. So they have cars that are almost entirely autonomous in Phoenix, Arizona, in San Francisco, etc. But bringing these to New York is very hard, and they don't have such of a fleet. And then there are the Tesla, AI, all these companies who already have a huge fleet, but they have level 2, level 3 autonomous systems. And they're trying to slowly, they're already driving everywhere in the world, but they're trying to increase their level of autonomy.
I was going to ask, like, how far do you think we are from seeing that? Is it 5 years from now? Is it 2 years? Is it even 10 years? So from your perspective, how far do you think we are?
So a couple of years ago, we went to CES as a startup doing self-driving cars. And we thought we were very, very close to the market. And when we went to the CES, we said, okay, it's gonna be 2030. And there was like a real disillusionment about self-driving cars. And I would say that currently we are in this phase and like most advances are being done. And a couple of years away, maybe five years, maybe 5 to 10 years, this is also a good thing because it means that we need self-driving car engineers today, not 10 years from now.
I see. Okay, yeah. And so you just mentioned other companies, like you mentioned Tesla, you mentioned Waymo, Baidu. So which company do you think has the highest chance to succeed when it comes to level 4 autonomy or even level 5 autonomy?
Tough question. I'm not sure. I said Tesla is currently leading the race. There is this company called Wave working in London, and they are doing reinforcement learning, autonomous driving. And well, I wouldn't say that these are like number one in terms of level 5 automation, but this is definitely a company I love to watch. And they're training something in a city, and then they can drive in another city without a map, without anything else than just cameras. This is just an impressive company.
I see. So you just mentioned like cameras, computer vision versus Lidar. You did not mention Lidar, but I know Waymo is using Lidar, but Tesla decided to not go with Lidar or even radar, so just pure computer vision. Can you explain to us what's the difference and where you see the challenges or advantages of computer vision or camera versus Lidar?
It really depends on the type of service or product you're trying to, as a self-driving car company, get. When most companies started self-driving cars, it was 2012, 2014, and we would never expect computer vision to be that good today. And so most companies went on Lidar, and they went on a service approach, meaning that they expected to just have a service. And so if they have a service, it's okay to add just 1 or 2 sensors because they're not selling you the car with the Lidar directly on it. So the cost is for them, and then it's decreasing over time. And when you have Tesla, they are selling you the car. And so if they have a $10,000 Lidar in it, it's very much more complicated to sell it because the price increases from $10,000. And that's like, I wouldn't say like one approach is better. There are tons of computer vision startups who can solve the Lidar approach. Even in my courses, I have a course on 3D computer vision, and we can build like distance estimation and depth maps just using cameras. But Lidars are also really a great fit for other types of service companies.
I see. Yeah, okay, so now let's change gears and talk about how to become a self-driving car engineer. So, majority of my audience, they are either students or they're just fresh graduates. They have a degree in engineering and they're trying to become a self-driving car engineer. So how would you suggest someone with a bachelor's in engineering go about becoming a self-driving car engineer?
There is I have tons of content on how to become a self-driving car engineer. I even have an introduction course to just become a self-driving car engineer, like learn the necessary steps. What I would say if I had to just get 1 or 2 key information would be to be able to show your skills. And so basically, a bit as I did, like build a portfolio of projects and be able to effectively communicate your skills. So yes, work on advanced technologies, but try to not just say, okay, I have a YOLO object detection, I'm good. Because many people also have YOLO object detection algorithms implemented when they are students or engineers. Try to make something like a bit more advanced, a bit more useful to companies, and that is a great way to stand out. Another solution is just to, with a portfolio of projects, to show up to the interview with videos. Have videos of your work. This is something that works so well you just press play and then you can comment. So here is a Kalman filter running. It can effectively track the car, and then you just talk on the video. And that is just a way that I found that is so much more efficient than just talking about your skills and yeah, I have done that certification, that course, blah, 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 which is something that doesn't really talk to people.
I see, but you just mentioned that we need to do projects, right? How about like say I'm a mechanical engineer or I'm a software engineer, just got my bachelor's degree, I have no idea where even to start. I know that you are offering some courses. You have some online programs that people can maybe would be a good way to start. Can you name some other, even yours? Can you name those? Can you name some other resources for people like, again, like even me, like so I have some skills, but I'm a surgical robotics engineer, right? I'm not a self-driving car engineer. So where do I go to have a roadmap, a guide that tells me you need to take these skills, you need to learn these skills, and then these are the online courses or online the books, online courses, online programs that you can enroll in or complete to become, at least to have a solid background to start applying for self-driving car engineer jobs?
There are like a few very, very popular resources that you can try and find. I would say like, if I were just to quickly list the necessary skills, you start with like master's degree and coding. You don't actually need to have the PhD, but that's always better, but you don't have to. So coding, and then you just increase a bit with knowing, so Python, C++, some math, Linux systems. So all of that is something that you can pretty much find online. There are a lot of courses. You can also learn that at school. Most people from my audience, they already know this. Then there is machine learning, deep learning, specializations from Coursera, for example. I would say just go there. That is excellent. And you can just, I think it has been updated for 2021. So just learn these machine learning and deep learning skills. Just have the knowledge of that, have the basics, code your own first neural networks, all of that. And actually, like in my courses, then I take people exactly at this step after machine learning and deep learning, and we are trying to just go further. So then you just specialize in a topic of self-driving cars. I would recommend to specialize. So for example, perception or localization or path planning or just controllers. If you're interested in perception, let's say, I like to talk about perception because most of my courses are about perception. What you're gonna need is to first understand the basics of how to use machine learning and deep learning, and also traditional computer vision techniques for perception. So you're gonna need to understand how to just work with an image, try to find object bounding boxes. That is the basics of this. And again, you can find that on a lot of online courses. You can learn that with, I recently partnered up with Search, and they have tons of great content for introduction to computer vision. I would recommend these. And then like, if you want to get further to learn, for example, in my courses, you can learn how a Lidar works. You can learn how to apply deep learning on 3D data. You can learn how to use ROS, which is robotic OS. So this is something that is almost mandatory if you're trying to become a self-driving car engineer. But you're already at the top of the pyramid, right? You're already building advanced skills. And then I would just recommend to build these skills, state estimation, Kalman filters, 3D computer vision, all of these advanced skills.
I see. So if I go to your website, and would I be able to find, like you mentioned some courses, but like if I'm really absolute beginner, then how would I know which step I need to take? You talked about like programming languages, a little bit of AI, computer vision, perception, stuff like this. But do you have a map or a guide that tells me, hey, if you know C++, you're good, go to the next step. If you do not know, first learn C++. Then if you know C++, then learn computer vision, then learn AI, then learn mapping. Do you have like more of a roadmap in your website that if I go, I can learn all of these steps and I can go step by step and plan maybe a year from now, maybe 8 months from now, I can become a self-driving car engineer?
I actually have a mini course which is sold like for $20 on my website. When you join the mailing list, you have an offer to get it for $20. And the idea is that in this course, you learn all the basics of self-driving cars. So the software, the hardware, I also tell personal stories about the field. And in the end, you are building an action plan to become a self-driving car engineer. And it includes a mind map with all the skills needed, from perception to control. It includes also a curriculum that I made with my courses and other people's courses. And there is exactly as you said, like step 1, do this, step 2, do that, etc. And then just choose your specialty, build this type of skills, work with a portfolio, all of that.
That's awesome. That's great. So let's say I took either your courses or Udacity online programs. What are the top skills? Maybe name 3 skills that if I master, let's say I have a degree, let's say even my case, I'm a robotics engineer, right? What are the top 3 skills that if I wanted to get into the self-driving car technology industry, I needed to have in my resume, so that people, like, what are the top 3 skills that people are looking when they look at your resume?
So we always look for C++ and ROS. Those are like, robotic OS is like very important, especially if companies are using robotic OS. And if they're not, they're going to expect you to have already worked with a middleware or something like this. And so if you say, I have worked with ROS, I have built this project, you're good. You're basically good. And C++ and Python are really important. C++ is used a lot in a lot of companies, so I wouldn't skip that skill. And then for the third one, I would say like to have just not necessarily one skill, but one project applying a specific skill. So if you have a sensor fusion project, or if you have a computer vision project using 3D deep learning or something like this, that's impressive to people. That's a skill that they are using currently, and that's always something good to have.
I see. Great, thank you. So let's talk about the opportunities and the future in the robotics field. So where do you see the robotics field be in 5 years from now in terms of opportunities, the growth, the money? So what are your suggestions for my audience for trying to predict what the future will be and then get to that field? Is it, I'm gonna leave it up to you to answer that question.
I'm not sure it matters to know exactly where the industry is gonna be in 5 years. We know that robotics is something that is increasing. We know that some industries such as Lidar are completely booming. And I don't really see a world where robotics just stops to build companies and to hire. We've had like 10 crazy years about software, and I do believe that the next 10 years are going to also include a lot of hardware companies. And companies are built entirely just on sensors, like just on one sensor. We do the best LiDAR, we do the best radar, and just on that, and they're valued billions of dollars. And I would just say like the industry is gonna keep growing, and projects are going to be more and more interesting, more and more advanced. So definitely something really good.
I see, great. And so now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about soft skills. Again, I read your daily emails, the majority of them, and I like them a lot. Sometimes you talk about soft skills as opposed to just technical skills, or what we call hard skills. So can you talk about importance of soft skills in addition to your technical skills in order to succeed when you join a robotics company, or even a self-driving car engineer, a self-driving car company?
So what you call the software skills are basically like how to code and data structure and algorithms, all of that?
No, I'm talking about soft skills such as team working, and leadership. Yeah, skills like that you talk about in your emails. I see a lot of those skills you talk about, and I see you put them in a nice story format that is just fun to read, and you learn from those. So can you talk a little bit more about it here, and maybe name some important soft skills that someone needs to have?
I do tell a lot of stories to include the importance of software skills, and what I would say is that some people, they come to me and they are more skills than me technically. They have 10 years of experience and they have 2 PhDs. I don't know, they have all of these skills and they can't find a single job. And like that's the first fundamental is to master branding, like to understand exactly how to communicate your skills. I got job offers because I wrote Medium posts. Just that, I had 2 or 3 Medium posts, and based on these Medium posts alone, I got job offers because I knew how to just communicate something technical in plain English. And that is something that is so important today. Like nobody learns and takes the time to understand how to communicate and how to talk. And like if you're doing this, you're gonna be just one of the few who does that. And like there is the resume. Like don't have 4 pages of resume. Nobody cares. Like the resume is about getting attention, and people are not understanding that today a resume is mostly sent as a PDF. So you can take the PDF opportunity to just add some buttons, make people click, go to your universe, take them there, and just like there is the resume, there is the portfolio, or the storytelling also. Like when people ask you, tell me about yourself, like what are you gonna say? If you're having the same speech than the 10 others before, you're not going to be remembered. And so these are the things that I teach a lot, and especially in my daily emails, but because it's so important. Like some people don't need more hard skills, they need soft skills. They need to learn how to they have the PhD, they have that, they understand this. They just need to take 3 hours, build a cool project, and then just try to market it as if they were a mini startup.
Exactly, I echo your thoughts here. So, like you said, I got my PhD in surgical robotics, and I thought I have all the technical skills that I need to have. But when I joined the industry, after a year or 2, I realized that it's not all about technical skills. I need to learn some soft skills as well, like communication, like team working, leadership. Stuff like this is very important. And again, I like the way you write about these in your like daily emails. There was one email that you talked, stop being the nice guy, and something along those lines. And I really liked it. It was you put it in a story format, and it was fun to read. And you learn from like your daily. I learn from your daily emails. So thank you very much for your effort you're putting into this. I know it takes a lot of time because you're doing it on a daily basis. So thank you for that. And we'll put links to your daily emails, like the sign up, in the description section, so people can maybe join and read your daily emails. So my last question is, so maybe one of the last questions. We'll see how it goes. So I know more and more people are trying to get into AI and robotics these days because these are the future. So let's say how someone can stand out from the crowd and have a competitive edge when it comes to robotics, AI, self-driving car engineers. What are your recommendations?
My recommendations are definitely to take skills one step further in terms of, in this time, hard skills. So to have a competitive edge, so you can have the portfolio, you can try to be more noticed by companies, but if in the end, all you know is how to do object detection, you're gonna get stuck at some point because people today expect extraordinary skills. And something very, very common, which is object detection, is not really useful for self-driving cars companies. Believe it or not, like most online courses on self-driving cars, they have the final project, you detect bounding boxes in 2D. Well, nobody cares. What they care about is how you use these bounding boxes to do something that is actually useful, like tracking, like depth estimation and 3D positioning, like sensor fusion. And if you learn to use these skills, so for example, I have a course on Lidar and camera fusion, and if you learn to just use bounding box detection as a black box for just then increase the level of what you can do, then definitely you're building a competitive edge.
So do you have any suggestions for someone who is still trying to figure out which field in robotics to pick? Do you have any suggestions there?
Well, first you can test. That definitely, like, you would know immediately if you like it or not. I would say like the robotic field has a lot in common with the self-driving car engineer skill. A self-driving car is just a robot that is driving in the streets, and that's it, right? So you can just try and work in any of these companies, and if you currently don't work in one of these companies, that will already be an amazing step, right? Just working on an autonomous delivery robot or on a drone that does surveillance or whatever, that's already crazy to just be doing this. Then if you need to just pick, you can always, like, once you're inside these companies, you can always try and, like, once you're in, like, then you can just shift from one company to another.
That's awesome, great. And one last question for you would be, a lot of people reach to me and say, hey, they don't wanna, I know I said last question for the past 3 questions, but a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, should we major in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering or computer engineering, software engineering to become a robotics engineer? So I always tell them that if they like math, if they like programming and algorithm, they definitely should go for like software engineering or computer science, because that's where I see the future is, that's where I see the money, the growth, the opportunity, and the challenges are. So what are your thoughts? So if someone reaches to you and say, hey, what field or what major should I pick when I go to college to eventually become a robotics engineer?
I mean, if you like mechanical, just go for it and try to make it something. Like, sometimes when people try to start a business, they're trying to do something they love because of Steve Jobs. And I don't recommend this in general, because most of the time, people, when they do something they love, it doesn't necessarily get to living exactly the life they imagine. But in the case of you're an engineer and there are tons of software companies hiring, if there are tons of whatever you're doing hiring, just go there and just try and have some fun there.
I see. All right. Any final thoughts, Jeremy? Any closing thoughts, statements, anything to conclude this talk?
Well, first, it's been a pleasure. I didn't know you personally before, and I've been since we contacted each other, I've been following a bit of your videos, and they're really cool. So keep up the great work. And for people just listening to the video or just watching, well, Sina and I are doing a lot of work to help you. So just use us, take the opportunity. We have a lot to share with you, even for free. Like, for example, for me, like 90% of my content, what I do daily, the emails, it's all free. So just try and learn, try and always keep learning. One rule that I have is to always have an online course in the background. Like, I'm doing some stuff, I'm living my life, but I always try to have one course. And that is something that you can try and do. And just keep believing in it, because if you'll just put in the work, it's going to happen.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you for your time today. I truly enjoyed talking to you. Thank you very much. If you're new to robotics or an absolute beginner, a great way to get started with robotics is to buy a robot kit and try to build and program it. Scout by RoboBlock is an entry-level coding block robot kit that is great for learning to program and build your very first robot buddy. Please see the description box for more information.